All right, everyone, welcome to this webinar called The Truth About Coaching. That is my picture down there in the left-hand corner of the screen in the bottom. My name is Sean Smith. I'm the founder of MVP Success Systems. We also go by Elite Success Systems, and I've been speaking and training for well over a decade now, and it's a fantastic profession, career choice. And so my intention for you in this webinar is for you to just get something of value. I'm not sure where you are in your journey. I'll ask in a little bit to just to check in to see who's on the line right now. But my hope is that there's something for you of value on this webinar, whether you're brand new to coaching or maybe you haven't even started yet, or you've been coaching for a long time, then hopefully you'll get something out of it. If you have the desire to help people and you have a message that you want to get out to the world, then you're in the right place. If you want to create the next level, whatever that is for you, starting a business, expanding a business, opening up a new niche, maybe launching a new product, whatever that is, then all of that can be helped with the information that we're going to talk about now. You've also got to be serious. I don't think any of you would have showed up to this webinar, so I'm sure that you can check that box pretty easily, but you've got to be serious about long-term success, right? Not just quick fix magic pill success. And I've got a lot of my own judgments around that kind of information. I'll probably let a few of them spill out as we go onto the webinar here. You're in the wrong place if you just are looking for exactly what I just said, a quick and easy fix. If you just want to make money as a coach, create the lifestyle that you want, then I'm probably not the right person for you. If you're searching for a turnkey system or step by step or one size fits all, then I'm not the right guy for you. And I have all of those phrases in quotes because those are marketing terms. And what I have noticed about the coaching industry is that there's a lot of marketers that are marketing to the coaching industry from a marketer's perspective. And, I don't want to throw any stones at anybody, and I'm not judging those people, but I do want to create distinctions for you around several things on this particular webinar. And one of the distinctions is that in this industry, in all industries, not, this isn't unique to just coaching, but in this industry, if you're searching for marketing advice and you're buying marketing advice from marketers, then you've got to make sure that you are a marketer also. Otherwise, there's not going to really be resonance a lot of times, right? And I'm not saying all the time, but you've just got to really know what you're looking for and know what you are investing in to see if it's going to be the right fit for you. And sales people are really good at selling what the market will buy. And these are what the market buys: turnkey systems, step by step. Let me just not put a whole lot of energy into my business or not have to put a whole lot of thought, not work too hard. Let me just find the thing that's going to be simple and easy for me to do. And let me just make quick money. Now, the reason that marketers use those kinds of phrases is because that's what people are searching for. People are wanting that quick fix. Don't put a whole lot of effort into it. Let me find the fastest way to make money, to get the lifestyle that I want, etc. So that's why people are selling those kinds of programs. So I'm not mad at those people that sell those kinds of programs. The reality is we've got to stop looking for that stuff, right? I mean, we're talking about an industry in coaching that requires some effort. It requires skin in the game. And we're not just selling widgets here. We're not just trying to figure out how can we make money online. I mean, if that's your angle, that's fine too. I'm just not your guy, right? So I just want to be really clear from the very get-go, a little bit about what I believe in, right? And what you're going to get on this webinar, what you're not going to get. And the reality is most coaches fail. This webinar is called The Truth About Coaching for a reason. I don't want to blow smoke up anybody's, what. I just want to be blunt and honest. I also don't want to be deflating on any level. I don't want to, take air out of your sails, but I want to be honest with what you're getting into and what it is that you actually need in order to create whatever success you want in the coaching world. Now, I don't want this to sound like I'm this super egotistical guy that has it all figured out and I'm, my way is the only right way. But I do have my own, judgments and opinions after being in this world for 10 plus years. But I've also seen a lot of coaches that have failed. And so my judgments are coming from that space also, not just, my ego about right and wrong. But the reality is most coaches fail. Just like most marriages fail, just like most people who go to college don't get A's, just like most people who invest in the stock market don't make their money back, right? So the fact that most people don't succeed in a given scenario or in a certain institution or a market, that's not a problem, right? Because the reason that most coaches fail and the reason that most marriages fail and the reason that most people fail in the stock market is a human problem. That's the human element. There's nothing wrong with the actual institution of education or marriage or coaching or whatever. It's the human element. So that's what I want to speak to. Why is it that most coaches fail, even though this is a succeedable market for most people, right? That want to be coaches. You can create success, but you got to do it the right way, right? And one of the things I'll talk about is how the perception of this industry is tainted. You've got a lot of coaches who, in my opinion, are being taken advantage of because they're searching on some level for that quick fix, but they're also being sold that quick fix. And because of that, a lot of coaches have become jaded on their ability to succeed in this industry, what it takes to succeed in this industry, or what you have to sell, or who you have to be, or how you have to operate to succeed in this industry. And that's a sad thing because you can absolutely create a successful business around whatever message you have in the world as long as you go about it the right way, right? Now, one of the reasons that coaches really struggle is simply we just want to help too much. We show up with this bleeding heart mentality, want to help the world, and that's all fantastic. But you can't build a business by just wanting to help society, just by wanting to help the world, right? Because helping and selling are two different muscles. They really feel like two different energies for most people. And that conflict has to be addressed and it has to be solved if you're going to build a business. Now, I'm not saying one is better than the other. You just got to realize both of these muscles need to be used, and we've got to go on whatever internal journey, individual journey it takes in order to make sure that you can marry those two for you, right? And then the other reason that coaches struggle a lot of times is they stop being in the coaching conversation. They stop building their coaching muscles, whether it's the skill set of continuing to get better as a coach or not being coached themselves. You've got to really stay in this game of coaching in order to have the leverage and the certainty and the conviction that you really want. So let me create one distinction that I will use pretty much throughout the rest of this webinar. Now, again, this is not a right or wrong. This is just two different animals, right? This is apples versus oranges. I'm not saying apples are better than oranges or vice versa. I'm just saying you need to know the difference. So there are two types of coaches in this industry: people who sell and people who teach. And usually, whichever one you are, you're not the best at the other one, right? Teachers aren't very good at selling, and salespeople a lot of times are not very good at teaching. Now, you can be one and learn the other, but most of us are going to fall into one of those two lanes primarily. Now, I don't want you to be at either end of that spectrum. This is really about you noticing where you are and knowing what you need from other people, and then making sure that you build that other muscle as much as you can. So let me do this. Let me take a break real quick, and I want to launch a poll for you because I want to know who's on the line. So I'm just going to ask a very simple poll. The one question is, how long have you been a coach? So you should see it right now. If you're with us online, you should have seen a poll pop up right away. All you've got to do is pick one of those scenarios. you're not a coach yet at all, you're just doing your research, or you've been coaching less than 2 years, 2 to 5, 6 to 10, or 10 or more years. So wherever you are, no right or wrong. I just want to get a sense of who's on the line so that I can hopefully support you the best. All right, cool. I'm gonna leave it up for another 10 seconds or so. Almost everybody has voted. I can see before I close this poll. All right, excellent. I'm going to close the poll now. So if you have not voted, it's over. That's okay. And so half of you on right now have not started your coaching business, and that's great. And then a third of you have been coaching for less than 2 years. So almost everybody in this webinar is a coach for 2 years or less, with most of you not having started yet. And then there's a small number of you that have been coaching from 2 to 5 years, and nobody has been more than 6 years. All right, perfect. So that helps me know who's on the webinar right now, so I can sort of guide my examples and stories or what have you. So this distinction, again, I want to be very clear. It's not right or wrong, but you just have to understand the difference, and it can be helpful for you to know who you are, right? If you're more aligned with one or the other, that's great. Then you know what you got to work on, right? So what I want to start with this content is, what are the mistakes and the myths and some of the misunderstandings that cause a lot of coaches to struggle? And again, a lot of my content on this webinar might sound super judgmental, and it absolutely is, based on my research, based on my experience personally, based on talking to and trying to support a lot of coaches. So if it's coming off in a real egotistical way, I apologize. I don't mean it to be super egotistical, but it is coming out of passion, right? And I do get irritated by some of the things that are happening, by people who are not able to make it in this industry, etc. And so that's where this is coming from. Now, one of the things is, this is a misunderstanding, that your success in another industry will transfer over into coaching, and it doesn't necessarily do that. You could be really successful in a corporate environment, you could be really successful in sales, you could be really successful in other areas of your life, but when you start marketing yourself as a coach and you stand up and say, I can help you, whatever you're going to help people do, that is a whole new world for most people. So the reason I say this is that some people get really frustrated because they don't find the same level of success in coaching as they do in real estate or insurance or teaching or anything else. And that's okay. It's because the game is literally a different game. So I don't want you to beat yourself up over that. A huge mistake that coaches make is marketing before conviction, right? One of the worst things you can do as a coach is market too soon. Market before you are fully convicted. And I'm going to open that up a little bit more. So I'm not going to explain too much more right now. But if you market too early, you could be doing yourself a huge disservice, and you can actually be doing damage to yourself financially, emotionally, etc. Marketing for coaches versus marketing for marketers. Now, this is a misunderstanding. What you've got to understand, and it's based on the distinction I was making a little while ago. Here's what I really want you to understand. Again, there are two fundamental types of coaching that you're going to get in this coaching industry. You're going to get coaching from coaches, or you're going to get coaching from marketers. So if you get coaching from marketers, let's say you get, a program. And by the way, I'm a marketer and I'm a coach. So I'm not saying either one of these is wrong. I'm not trying to throw arrows at anybody else out there, right? So I am a marketer as well. That's part of this webinar, is to teach you how to build a business on some level, right? But understand this. If you learn a system for how to make money in coaching, let's say, and you learn it from somebody who teaches how to make money in coaching, but you don't want to teach how to make money in coaching, you just want to fill your coaching practice, right? Let's say you want to teach people yoga, you want to teach people meditation, you want to teach people how to be happier in their life, or how to create more connection in their marriage. If you're teaching people something that doesn't look like making money, then you're not necessarily going to be able to follow the same system from as somebody who's teaching people how to make money, because the energy is different. So what I'm saying is, you might learn from somebody who teaches how to make six-figure, how to do a six-figure launch, but they're teaching how to do a six-figure launch, and their content is also how to do a six-figure launch. And if you learn that, but you're not teaching how to make money, you're not teaching how to launch, you're teaching how to be happier, you're teaching how to create more calmness or joy or whatever, that's a big enough variable that can make everything change. And I'll give you an example. I had somebody one time, I had a client one time who, or he was learning from several different people at once, and I was one of them. And he bought a program, and he was modeling a guy that teaches how to do like six-figure launches, right? And again, I'm not throwing arrows at that guy. I'm not saying it doesn't work. It absolutely works for the people that it works for. But there's not a one size fits all. So my clients and friend wanted to create a program for parents, and he wanted to teach parents how to basically just be a better parent to their teenagers, especially when their teenagers are depressed and going through a lot of challenges in the teenage years. And he followed the model that this guy teaches. And I was trying to tell him, and I'm not telling you this story because like to pump my own, to toot my own horn, but this is the reality. I was trying to tell him, hey man, your content is different, so it might not work. But he didn't want to listen to me. He was getting coached from somebody else. And God, that sounds really egotistical as I hear myself say that, but this is the truth. And I was trying to let him know that, parents are different than people who want to be marketers. And anyway, he followed this system almost to a T. So he set up this online coaching program for parents. There was a video tutorials. That's how he taught the content. He priced it for like $300, and he had 3 different tiers. Tier number 1 is the basic. Tier number 2 is a VIP package, and tier number 3 was like, I forget exactly, but it was like, an in-person mastermind or something like that. And he drove traffic just like the other guy taught, and he did all these things. He followed this model to a T and didn't make a single sale. And he spent a lot of money making nothing. And his content was really good. And he spent a lot of time building the content, creating the audios, filming a lot of videos, spending a lot of money getting them edited. Now, his dad was rich, so he, spending a lot of money was easy for him. He didn't care. So he didn't really get stung by spending a lot of money. But I can tell you, he spent a ton of time and a ton of money building this content ready for this wave of parents to come through and buy his program and upgrade and do all this stuff. And he didn't get a single sale because parents don't buy parenting information delivered in video tutorials like people buy how to market a business delivered in video tutorials. So because his variable was so different in the content and his ideal client, the whole thing went to crap. And so one of my frustrations is that people just don't get that, right? I'm trying my best not to make it sound like I'm a jerk and and throwing arrows at all these other people. But if you're not selling marketing, then the system that the marketer who sells marketing follows might not work for you. That's all I'm trying to say. There will be concepts that will transfer, but you can't just follow a system that somebody else follows unless you're teaching basically the exact same stuff. And then another concept I want to go over is meaningful versus marketable. So this guy's content that I was just talking about, his content was really meaningful because he teaches parents how to better support their children, their teenage kids, when their teenagers are depressed. And he knows that parents usually don't speak to their depressed teenagers the way that depressed teenagers need to be spoken to. So his content was actually really meaningful to me as the parent of a teenager. And I think it could save some lives. It could really help a lot of people out. But it ended up not being marketable because of the way that he followed, the process that he followed. So since nobody bought, his meaningful content ended up being meaningless. And it's meaningless not because there wasn't value in it. It was meaningless because nobody consumed it. And so if nobody consumes it, then nobody's benefiting from it. Therefore, it's meaningless. So what we have to do with our coaching business, with our own unique content, is we have to make sure that we create something that's marketable, not just something that's meaningful. And a lot of coaches, I find, get too hung up in how meaningful their stuff is. They get desperate almost around how meaningful their stuff is. And the reality is, if you can't find a way to market it, then who cares? And I don't want to sound, again, deflating, but that's the reality, right? So that's why the marketing muscle is really critical. And then the final thing on this slide, at least, that a lot of coaches really struggle with, in my opinion, this is not coaching specific, this is just people in general. A lot of people are not willing to be authentic. And in today's world, with social media the way it is, with the internet, with all the scams and all the people, trying to take advantage of other people, people need to trust you nowadays. And the way that you build trust is through authenticity, not by impressing them with all the things you've done, and not by creating this, corporate bio and telling people how amazing you are. Authenticity trumps accolades nowadays. And so you've got to be willing to be authentic so that other people can see themselves in you. And when they can see themselves in you, they'll trust you more and they'll follow you more. As a coach, especially, regardless of what your coaching looks like, right? Coaching, in my opinion, doesn't necessarily mean just one-on-one private coaching. You can do group coaching. You can be a speaker. That's a form of coaching, in my opinion. You can coach via online tutorials and stuff like that. However you coach, however you help somebody, to me, that's coaching. So it's not just one-on-one coaching, but you've really got to be authentic, especially with coaching, because there's an intimate relationship there. They've got to trust you to the point where they're going to allow you to help them change their life, right? So I've already alluded to probably all of these, but let me give you these 3 mind shifts that need to happen in order for you to be more successful as a coach. The first one is an energetic conflict between helping and selling. So I've already alluded to that one. You don't have to feel conflicted, because you can come from a space of helping people and offer your programs. But for most people, that's really difficult, especially in the beginning. The first time I tried to sell something, my goodness, I just was hoping that some like natural disaster would just put an end to this, because it was so freaking awkward when I first tried to sell my package at a live event that I was doing. And it took me quite a while to create an energetic marriage between helping and selling. And I'll be honest, to this day, sometimes I still really struggle with that, right? Because it feels like 2 different things. How can you be helping somebody if you're asking them to pay you money? It feels like they are 2 separate things. And if you can't get over this conflict that in your energy, then you're just not going to be able to succeed. The second conflict is a personality conflict between what it takes to build a business and what it takes to be creative. Your creativity muscles, your right brain is different than your left brain muscles, which are perfect for creating systems and just all the things that a business requires. Your left brain thinks linearly. It's more scientific. I do this and this happens, etc. And your right brain is anti-system, basically. It just wants to create and flow. And for most people, coaching is a right brain activity. It's more of a creative flow. I think I'm using left and right brain properly. If I'm not, if I'm flip-flopping them, then I apologize. But I think the right brain is the more creative one. And so that's where most people step into this world of coaching from a creative standpoint. But you can't build a business that way. You've got to have systems, and you've got to focus on return on investment. You've got to track. You've got to do things in order to build a business, at least for most people, that are different than our creativity muscles. So that conflict has to be resolved. And then the third conflict, I just call a leverage conflict. And it's similar in distinction to what we're talking about already with these other two. But specifically, it's the conflict between your head and heart. Your head wants society society's definition of success. We'll just put it that way. Your head wants money. Your head wants to build a business. Your head wants transactions, right? Your heart just wants to love people. Your heart wants to make a difference. Your heart wants people to tell you that you changed their life. Your heart is more transformational. It wants meaning, but your head wants success. And again, it's not right or wrong. None of these things are right or wrong. You just have to understand these are two fundamentally different opposing forces. And so most people come into this industry driven by their heart, being super creative and wanting to help people. If you are learning from somebody who's driven by their head and they are focused on business systems and they want to sell, then there's going to be a gigantic mismatch. Now, again, there's nothing wrong with those people. That's actually all really important stuff. I just want you to know that you've got to close that gap if you have the conflict internally for yourself, right? So, in short, you have to really be driven by the love of the journey in coaching specifically, so much that you can't not do it. And I believe it's the most noble thing you can do, which is to help and support other people's success as long as you figure out how to actually make this thing work, right? So let me get super judgmental with you for a second, even more judgmental than I already have been. The industry is dirty. And the reason I say the industry is dirty is because there's this tainted effect, right? I already mentioned earlier that a lot of coaches are jaded because they haven't been successful, even though they've invested in programs or they've tried to do social media marketing or they've started a podcast or they've done YouTube. You know, if you've attempted to succeed in this industry according to the way somebody else has succeeded and you haven't succeeded, that just means that thing didn't work for you. That doesn't mean that you can't be successful. It means the way you went about it didn't work. And you've got to distinguish between those two. You've got to detach from the way you've tried and what you need to do, right? So if you haven't been successful so far, it just means you haven't done the right things. But the industry is also tainted from the outside looking in because there is no board that requires coaches to prove a certification or to prove that they are competent. Anybody can say they're a coach. And because anybody can say they're a coach, a lot of people get their start very quick, right? So that's a good thing sometimes, but it's also a bad thing if somebody hires somebody who really isn't super competent because they might have a bad experience. And so the whole industry of life coaching a lot of times gets laughed at. A lot of people joke about it because they haven't had, successful experiences or positive experiences. And so that's why this industry is dirty or tainted from the inside and from the outside, right? And that really bothers me to a certain extent, to a large extent, because I believe that everybody needs coaching. I believe that the world, if they experienced what the coaching industry can provide, the world would be better. I believe most relationships, whether it's friendships or marriages or anywhere in between, would be better if they learned a lot of the things that the coaching industry can provide. I think people would be doing better in their business. They would be losing more weight. Like they would be doing better all the way around if they experienced good coaching. So that's where I'm coming from in my judgments. And for me to say the coaching industry is dirty, it's because I think we're not able to serve the level of people that we can if it wasn't tainted and if it wasn't so dirty, right? The other thing is from a business perspective, how do I succeed in coaching? a lot of people make it sound easy. And I'll be 100% judgmental right now. A lot of people make the coaching industry sound easy. Now, why do they make it sound easy? Because that's what people buy. People buy easy. People buy, like, if there really was a pill that you could just consume and not change your diet, eat everything that you want to eat and not work out and still lose weight, everybody would buy it. Now, if you take a look at the weight loss infomercial industry, it's almost like a new version of that story gets sold to the public every other week, right? That's because that's what people buy. So people will go from this particular pill or this particular program where they're really hoping they can lose weight without changing any of their habits. And then once they realize that doesn't work, then they jump to another one that's really good at selling the new pill, right? And this is a fundamental problem of the way we as a society search for our results. Now, I'm not mad at the marketers. They're just doing what they need to do to sell to the people who are desperately searching for results. But I am mad at the people that blatantly lie, right? Now, not all of them blatantly lie, but some of them do. And the reality is, this ain't easy. Nothing worth having is easy that I've experienced, right? So you've got to check that desire, and that's really your thing. Like, you've got to check your own desire at the door, basically, and make sure that you're not looking for easy. Now, simple and easy are different. Marketing at its core, if you take a look at the different elements in building a business, there are a bunch of simple elements to it, but it's not easy. When you think it's easy, you come in with these expectations that you're just going to, follow this turnkey system, or you're just going to throw up some ad on Facebook, and all of a sudden all these, customers are going to come in and buy your stuff, and your expectation will absolutely be blown up, right? And if your expectation is blown up, then you're going to get frustrated. And it's the frustration that causes the experience of difficult, the experience of hard. And as long as you're wanting it to be easy, but it feels hard, then, you're just always going to perpetually be challenged, and you're going to perpetually be disappointed. So I think this is just one of my realizations and one of my philosophies, if you will, that our society is okay with being disappointed, because we have all these products that we buy, and when they don't fulfill on the success with no effort promise that they sold us, then we don't achieve what it is that we want to achieve. But the problem is that we are okay with that, right? Most people that are following diets, they know this diet won't work. And when it does work, they know they'll fall off of it at a certain point. They're going to gain all their weight back. Most people that take medicine don't actually believe that the meds are working to the point that they want them to work, but they still pay for them. They still take them anyway. And when the meds don't work, that's okay, because we've just settled into this disappointment experience with our purchases, and that's not okay. So we've got to really be clear on what it is that we want in our investments, so that we can hold ourselves more accountable, as well as holding other people more accountable for the stuff that they promise and the stuff that they deliver, right? So that's the reality with this coaching industry. And trust me, there is there's a solution to all of this. There's a point to all this. Before I get into that, just in case some of you don't really know who I am, I'm going to try to give you the 90-second version of who I am. I've been speaking and coaching for over 10 years now. I joined this industry towards the end of 2005. I was named North America's next greatest speaker. I've achieved a lot of really cool things. I've done tours, I've spoken in all kinds of different areas, but that's not what makes me a good mentor or a good coach. It's not what will allow me to help you build a business. It's not what I've done. It's the fall. It's all the stuff that wasn't great. It's all the mistakes that I've made. So in the first 18 months of my coaching business, we generated over $300,000, which is pretty good in the coaching industry. And the majority of that money was actually made in the last 10 of those 18 months. But the next 18 months is where our business really imploded. And 3 years into my business, I ended up filing bankruptcy because I made a bunch of choices, and I'll explain what a few of those choices are in a moment, that caused my business to collapse. So the first 18 months, I had a meteoric rise according to my standards. And then the next 18 months, I plummeted. Now, the reason I share that with you is because my first 18 months is what sustained me through my second 18 months. What I mean by that is we had generated a lot of money. And so a lot of the money that was still coming in the second 18 months was because of what we did in the first 18 months. But what it gave me the ability to do is basically compare what was I doing the first 18 months versus what I was doing the second 18 months. And the second 18 months were awful. The first 18 months were amazing. So I was able to map those strategies on top of each other, basically, and see what I was doing wrong, see the choices, the changes that I made. And I was able to right the ship by going back to what I did the first 18 months. And so the second 18 months provided me the clarity of the business side of the business mistakes that I made. So the second 18 months is really where I became a better coach to other coaches. But the problem is, for most people, they experience their first 18 months is what I experienced my second 18 months. And had I had that experience first, I would have never, we certainly wouldn't be on the line still. I would have never been able to notice what I did wrong, right? And so I was finally able to realize, all right, these are all the mistakes that I made. Let me go back to doing what actually worked. And then we were able to right the ship. And, we've done actually that bullet is a little old. We've done well over $3 million in business, close to $1 million in the last couple of years. I've kind of righted the ship and been able to, win that award and get on TV, etc. But I really learned all of my business acumen, if you will, during the bankruptcy years, right? When I checked in with myself and wondered what it is that I'm doing and what do I want to do on this planet, and those hard questions yielded the best answers for me, right? So in a nutshell, I'm going to give you 5 or 6 things that I did to create the implosion. Number one, I stopped serving a single person. I got too generic. I tried to teach everything to everybody, and it was a disaster. I changed way too many variables at once. I changed the name of the programs. I changed who I was delivering it to. I changed how I delivered it. I changed my website. I changed how I marketed. I changed all these things at once, and that was a huge, huge mistake. When my income took a nosedive, I retreated instead of pushing forward. So basically, I was trying to plug all the holes in the boat as I was sinking, but instead of or while I was plugging all the holes, I stopped rowing. That was a huge mistake. I just started retreating. I tried to get rid of a lot of my expenses. And in doing that, I fired a lot of my coaches. I unplugged from a lot of the support system. And I just tried to create success on my own, right? Without putting any money out. And that's a huge mistake. I also went into a market where I was totally unprepared and unfamiliar. Now, the best thing I did for my business is I kept investing in myself. I kept investing in my skills. I was taking all these programs. I was hiring coaches. I was joining all these masterminds. And what I learned, and what the biggest takeaway for you is, you've got to continue strengthening the magnet. You are your biggest asset in your business. It's not what school you went to. It's not the skill set necessarily. It is you. You're the magnet, and your magnet will attract or detract or repel people according to your skill set, your confidence, your conviction, right? So one of the things that most coaches are afraid to do is work on themselves. They're afraid to work on the magnet, and that's a huge mistake to make, right? It's a huge mistake in this particular industry. Let me check in here. I see a question. Somebody says, how long do I serve potential clients before asking for the sale? This is a great question, Imani, and there's really no one size fits all answer. And and I know you've heard me train before, and you've probably heard me say that. It depends on some level. But if I had to give you some kind of ratio, I would say the ratio is roughly 4-1, right? Meaning give, offer. So, and that can be applied to social media. So maybe, you're going to post 5 times a day. 4 of those posts are just value adds, and then there's an offer to join a website, a webinar, or to buy something. Or if you're just posting once a day, then 4 of those days is value, and then 1 day is an offer. You can take a look at this from a period of time. So maybe you serve for 4 weeks, and then you make an offer for a week, right? So you can apply this 4-1 ratio to various time periods or the amount of, of content that you're pushing out. But you've got to be willing to be flexible inside of that, at the same time, right? What you don't want to do is either one prematurely. So you don't want to just immediately start to sell people without serving them and offering them value. But you also don't want to set the precedent that all you do is give, right? I had somebody one time who had a community for 4 or 5 or 6 months, but they had never offered anything to the community. And what we found out is their community, basically the precedent was set that all they do is give. They don't ever offer anything. So when they tried to go out and offer a program, the community didn't respond very well, right? I mean, a few people did, but not to the extent that we thought they would have, because the precedent had already been set. So there's no right or wrong answer, regardless of all the variables. You have to take all the variables into account. But if I had to give you one, it would be that 4-1 sort of ratio, right? And you can also tell by the engagement of your crowd if they're ready for an offer. You can ask them if they want an offer. So this is more of an art than a science, but you definitely need to be aware of that concept, right? So let me talk about a few of the truths, and I'm sure I've probably alluded to all of these. Coaching is the most noble thing you can do, as I've said. This industry requires a level of purpose and passion that other industries just simply don't require. And that desire has to outweigh your obstacles, right? You're going to bump up against a lot of stop signs, whether it's internal and you find awkwardness in offering yourself as a product, or it's external, you're struggling putting up a website or figuring out how to do marketing or whatever. Your desire for doing this work has to be greater than your frustration. I mean, it's simply put, right? If your desire outweighs your frustration, you'll figure it out. And you'll either learn it on your own, or you'll delegate it, you'll hire somebody that can do it, or you trade services or whatever. But don't let the frustrations of things that can be figured out stop you from fulfilling your purpose in this industry, right? Now, there are 3 main elements that coaches need. The first thing is you need confidence. And in my opinion, you need confidence in 2 areas. You need confidence in your skill set and your ability, but you also need confidence in the coaching structure. What are you going to take people through, right? What's the framework that you're going to walk people through? And that confidence is important internally, but it's also important externally. When you can tell people this is the structure that I'm going to walk you through, then they feel more confident because they know that you know where you're going. If you don't have a structure that you can point to, it's going to cause some people to not follow you and to not buy your programs, because a lot of people need some not, I was looking for this. I was going to say stability. They don't need stability, but they need certainty. They need to know what it looks like because everybody has a desire for stability, right? So that confidence is important internally, that you know that you can help people, and it's important that you know the process that you're going to take them through so that you can explain it to them. You also need certainty. Certainty is a knowingness. It's not the same as confidence, it's similar, but certainty is a knowingness that you are rock solid, right, in your energy. There's nothing up for debate. There's no doubt. You've got to have certainty in two things. The first thing is the results that you can produce, right? Now that's even a step beyond what I just said about your coaching ability. They're related for sure, but you've got to have certainty in what you can produce, that you can help people lose weight, that you can help people love themselves more, that you can help people make money, that you can help people lower their debt, whatever it is that you're wanting to help people do. You've got to have certainty in the results and certainty in the value of those results, right? You've also got to have certainty in you and your story. When you say to people, I can help you, you've got to know that you are a pretty valuable messenger. Because if you don't have that certainty in yourself that you have value in walking the planet the way you have and learning what you've learned, and you're the right person to share whatever it is that you're going to share with them, if you don't have that level of certainty, then they won't either. And it's going to be very difficult for you to get them to follow you if you're not following you, right? If you're not bought in to you being the right messenger. And this is it's not a simple thing, but it's also not really complicated. Usually this is an introspective exercise so that you really get rooted in your value to them. And what you'll find is that you find value in yourself as well. And this is the foundation, you guys. This is the foundational part before you start marketing. So when I said earlier that that one of the mistakes a lot of coaches make is that they market before conviction, this is what I'm talking about. If you're not convicted in your story and convicted in the results that you can produce, then marketing is one of the worst things you can do, because your doubts will be amplified by the spotlight if you're not ready to market yet, right? And then the third thing is clarity in your purpose. What is it that you're doing and why are you doing this? You've got to have some kind of drive in why you're doing this, but in the process itself, similar to the reasons that I was mentioning earlier. But clarity is when you can see it, but you can also explain it in very clear phases, right? And the way you're going to explain it is going to be determined by your content, right? So sometimes your clarity looks like, the first phase is this, and the second phase is this, and then the third phase is this. Sometimes your clarity is going to be more steps. I've got a 10-step approach for you to go from debt to debt-free, right? Or I've got a 7-step approach for you to find more passion in your marriage, or whatever it is that you're trying to help people do. Clarity is key. The unconscious mind needs clarity in order for it to commit to something. So similar to these other things, this is an internal challenge and it's an external challenge. When you have more clarity internally, you're going to be more committed to your business and to doing the work that you've got to do. And that lack of, or that crystal clarity will also help other people be attracted to you, right? So that's what coaches need. And this is the inner game. This is the foundation. This is working on the magnet, like I was saying earlier. And without that, it's difficult. I got to be really honest. Without that piece, it's difficult to succeed in this industry. So I'm going to share with you just a few stories. I'm going to go through this quickly because it is possible to generate success. It is possible to create a lot of confidence in yourself. Michelle Moore says that, just coaching in general has really changed her life. Her marriage is better. Her self-esteem is higher. All of these internal benefits are helping her be more attractive to potential clients, to prospects. Patricia talks about coaching as being an art, not a science, and I completely 100% agree with her. Audrey Debsky is somebody that has made some of these internal shifts, and she's actually in direct sales. Her calendar was full, and her deserve level totally changed, right? And that's one of the incredible things about doing this work is you can really create fundamental shifts for people. Kelly Robbins is one of our coaches. She says she's addicted to seeing the transformation that people have in their lives. And this work is transformational, right? And that's what I want to do, is be some kind of a transformational agent, be a transformational force in the world, right? And so I want to take people who are passionate about this industry and teach you how to be successful. Try to break down what it actually takes to build your confidence, build that certainty, build that conviction, create more clarity so that you can attract people to you instead of trying to chase people down. And in doing that, you'll increase your integrity. And I'm not necessarily talking about moral integrity, like do you do what you say you're going to do, but integrity from a business standpoint. Integrity actually means whole and complete. And a lot of people don't have integrity all the way around from a business standpoint because they're not aligned with a lot of these conflicts that I've been talking about. And that's why their business is going to struggle. So I want to help you create business integrity, not just moral integrity. That's on you. And I'm assuming that you have that and you're going to continue that. But business integrity as well, that your foundation leads to the systems that you put in place, and it's all being driven by your heart, and everything is really working together and feeding each other so that you can fulfill on what my dad told me. His final words were, Shawnee, when I asked him, Dad, what can I do to basically to live your legacy, is what I asked him. And he said with no hesitation, and we knew that he was on his deathbed at the time. I knew that this is probably going to be my final conversation with him. And with no hesitation, he just basically said, Shawnee, be who you can be, do what you can do, and live a good life. And so that has been my personal motto or mantra, if you will, to support that in the world, whatever that is. Whoever you are, do whatever you can do and live a good life, whatever that means to you. And so part of my mission is to increase the coaching industry. It's to increase the integrity, as I was talking about, business wise, not just moral wise, but to help people who really want to succeed in this industry and are coming from the right place, help them succeed. And I know I'm running a little bit long on this webinar. I'm going to take a few more minutes and just talk about a couple concepts that I have that I think are important to you as you build your business. And then I'll talk about a program that I've got coming up. But I designed a 6-step coaching framework that is critical for any kind of transformation that you want to create in the world, right? Whether these are small interactions with people or long 2 or 3 day events, these 6 steps really need to be addressed, and they need to be present if you're going to create change in people. So I'm going to go through these really quick. The first one is you've got to inquire and identify so that you understand your client's model of the world. And after you do that, G is you get permission to coach and you find leverage that they have in their world, in their mind, in their heart, whatever it is that you can find, so that they want to make a change. You can't help coach somebody that doesn't want to make a change. Then you've got to help them identify what the new outcomes are that they want. Not that you want for them, but that they want for themselves. The second I is the inner work. So what are you going to do to help them from the inside out make whatever change that you're going to help them change, right? That inner work is where the transformation actually takes place. And I'll talk a little bit about, different kinds of coaches and what I believe is important. But it's the inner work that actually makes sustainable change possible. If you just try to help people externally, you just try to feed them information, you just try to give them, outside in help, it's not going to last. So we got to be able to do the inner work, and there's many different ways to do that. I'll share with you some of my ways in a little bit. Test and tweak is whenever it is that you put, whatever content you give people, you do the coaching, you got to test it out. Test it and see if it's working. Sometimes you test it right there in the moment. Sometimes you check in with them the next week and you see if it's working, and then you tweak whatever's not working. And then finally, you've got to empower your clients to succeed, right? It's the support that people have or don't have usually, whether it's internally with themselves or externally with other people, that really determines whether somebody succeeds or not. So this is my framework that I've created over my 10 plus years as a coach. And it's what I teach other coaches when I do my certification programs. I'm not going to go really deep into this. Many of you have seen the 4 stages of learning, where people go from unconscious incompetence, where they don't know what they don't know, and then they become consciously incompetent, where they're not able to make the changes, but at least they know that they're not able to make the changes. And this is very uncomfortable for people. Even though it's exciting at the same time, it's uncomfortable for people because everybody wants to try to, create that fourth one, unconscious competence, where they don't have to work anymore and everything in their life just works. But that's not easy to get to. I don't know personally anybody who's gotten there, yet that's where most people are trying to get to. Most of us are in that third place, conscious competence. We know how to do the work, but it takes effort, right? We need the support, we need the accountability, etc. And we really use these 4 fundamental stages of learning in our coaching certifications, because if you don't understand how the human brain works, then you're not going to be able to help others create the lasting success. So there are 3 types of coaches. None of these are right or wrong. You just have to know what you want to be or what you're more drawn to. And if you want to be something else, then you just got to build those muscles. The first kind of coach is what I call content consultant. And this is if you want to just share information with people, that's fine. We find a lot of content consultants in the financial world, right? If you want to teach people how to get out of debt or how to save money on their taxes or whatever, that's information, and you transfer the information, or you give a tutorial, or you give a framework and people can follow it. And that's fantastic for that particular kind of industry or kind of content. The second one is more of a motivational and mindset coach. That's where you're inspiring people, you're building up their willpower, and we all need willpower in order to do the things that are difficult for us to do in our life. And that's also a very valid form of coaching. The third form of coaching is what I first experienced when I got into this industry. So that's what I've continued chasing ever since. This is not necessarily better than the others. It's just mine, right? It's my version. Not necessarily my version like I created it, but this is the path that I'm running in. And so I'm more passionate about this path. And I call it neurotransformational coaching. It's not just transformational, from a mindset or a willpower perspective. It's neurologically transformational, meaning we can do work for people and change their neurology. Like they'll never be able to go back again. You can help people let go of fears, and they'll never be afraid of the triggers that they were once afraid of. You can help people create a different experience in their lives of happiness or joy or self-love or whatever, and neurologically they have changed, right? Because we hold on to a lot of our irritations in our body. And when you can help somebody change the irritations that are blocking them from success, whether you delete them completely or you help them manage them, their life fundamentally will be different at a neurological level. So that's what neurotransformational is. And that's what I'm most passionate about. That's what I teach in our certification programs, is neurotransformation. So before I get, actually, let me just do this one last slide to explain a little bit more because I've already started talking about it. I've been certified in neuro-linguistic programming. That's NLP. Some of you've heard of it. Some of you may have been certified in that as well, or you might have just, you understand it, but maybe you didn't actually go into certification. I've also been influenced by some of my mentors, Jack Canfield and Dr. Deb Sandella specifically, they have their beginnings in psychotherapy. So a lot of my influence has come from psychotherapy as well as NLP. And on top of that, just breakthrough tools that I've learned in different seminars that I've gone to or different coaching programs that I've had, etc. And so I've combined all of my influences into my certification programs, into what I call neurotransformational coaching. And the reason this is so powerful is because it's got an internal and an external focus, right? We can focus on the person internally. We can help you identify the limiting beliefs and the fear blocks and all the pain and all that stuff that's stored in your body. But we can also use these same tools to help you set goals, to help you lose weight, to help you make more money, to help you, just increase your external circumstances. So that's what I love about all the tools that I've experienced and learned in my journey, is that it can be an external focus as well as an internal focus. And what it does is it gives you, as a coach, distinction in your market. The reason it gives you distinction is because when you understand the way the brain works, how we create sabotage, how you can decompose negative habits and reconstruct positive habits, when you start talking about the deeper levels of success or deeper phases, right? Or you start just speaking in a way that people haven't heard before, you'll be experienced by them as different. And a lot of times, different feels better, or at least different gives people hope. So let's say you want to help people lose weight and they start hearing you talk about identities, right? If you want to lose weight, we've got to look at your identities that are operating, not just calorie in and calorie out. If you start talking to people about that and they've never heard that before, they're going to go, I've not focused on my identities before. So I'm 0 for 59 when it comes to diets, but I've never done this work. And when you can create that kind of distinction, you create hope in people. You create hope for something new, a different result, even though it could be a similar path that they've gone to before. They've never followed that path this way, with this information or with this coach. So that kind of distinction is incredibly powerful in the market, but you can't do that unless you understand the deeper workings of the mind and the heart and identities and limiting beliefs and all of those sorts of things. So I get excited about teaching that work. I'm going to talk to you here about an online coaching program that I've had. If you have any, or that I have coming up, if you have any questions up until this point, you can type them in. I'm going to take this one question right now that came in from Imani a few moments ago, and let me address this before I get into the coaching program. So she says, I've recently attracted a huge amount of men on Facebook. I was sure my seeker is female. Now I'm unsure since women are not responding. Is it possible to serve both men and women at the same time? Yeah, the short answer is yes. It is possible to serve both men and women at the same time. But what I want you to notice is why the men are coming to you, what they're attracted to, what posts do you put out that they engage in a lot, what content do they seem to be asking you questions about, right? Because we want to see, if you've got more men being attracted on Facebook, what's the magnet that's attracting them? Now, if you're drawn to women, you don't have to serve the men. But what you now realize is that whatever magnet you're putting out isn't attracting the women, right? So you could do a few things. You could say, okay, well, this is the magnet that I'm really committed to. So if this magnet is attracting men, then I'm just going to run with the magnet and serve men. And then maybe you start changing your marketing a little bit to attract the men in your language, right? But if you're not attached to the magnet, you're more, and when I say magnet right now, I'm talking about what content are you putting out that's attracting the people or not attracting the people. If you're more attached to serving female entrepreneurs or females, whatever, then this magnet isn't attracting them. So you need to change what you're putting out because you're more committed to attracting females, right? And serving females. Or a third thing is, hey, I didn't realize that I was going to attract these males. I'm going to keep attracting them with this marketing, but I'm still committed to serving females. So I'm going to change my marketing and do it a little bit different in the female industries, in the female sectors, so I can get them in here too. And when you get them both in the same room, you can usually serve both of them, right? So one of my analogies in marketing is you have a room that you're trying to get people into. Marketing is what sign do you need to put on the wall to get people to open the door? And usually the sign you need to put on the wall isn't the same as what you're going to teach when they come into the room, because people don't usually buy processes, right? They buy results, they buy outcomes. So what sign do you need to put on the door? What it sounds to me like is you put a sign on the outside of the door that you were hoping was attracting females, and what you're finding is it's attracting males. That's great. You can keep that sign on the door and keep attracting males from that side of the room, but then you can still figure out what do you need to put on the sign on the other side of the room, on the outside of that door, to attract females. And when they both come into the room, you can still teach them the same concepts, as long as you just address, like for men, you might need to focus on this. For women, you might need to focus on this. So in your examples, you can tell them men versus women, like you can speak to their gender differences, but in the content itself, you can teach them the same exact thing. So hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, Imani, then go ahead and let me know, or ask another question. And if any of you have any other questions, go ahead and type them in here. So let me tell you a little bit. Let me take a few minutes and tell you about an online certification program that I've got coming up. Now, first of all, we've never done an online certification program in the past. In the past, our certification programs have only been 5 days in-person deep dive. Let's get it all, right? But what we found is that some people just need an online program for circumstantial reasons or whatever. They want to be able to, test it out to see if this is something that they're interested in, or see if they like my style or whatever, before they, invest time and energy and money into the bigger program. So we've put together this online coaching program, and what we're teaching is the concepts that don't require you to be in a room in an immersive experience in order to get and in order to master. So this program is going to be 20 plus hours of online instruction with practice. It's going to be delivered in 10 deep dive training modules, all online, delivered via webinar similar to this. We're going to use a different platform, but similar to this. I'm going to be teaching you all the proven coaching strategies that I've learned, that I've experienced, and the inner work is what we're going to focus on a lot, right? I talked about neurotransformation. I talked about that inner work inside the Ignite framework, and really what it is belief change. When you can help people change their beliefs, you can help people change their life. My favorite analogy when it comes to beliefs is, imagine a movie projector, right? The old movie projectors that have film on them, right? And they take the film and they project it onto a screen. Now, what gets projected onto the screen is simply whatever's on the film. And the film of your life is like your belief system. So if you want to change what's on the screen, don't address it on the screen. That's what too many people are doing. They're trying to address their circumstances instead of addressing what's on the film. If you want to change what gets projected on the screen, then change what's on the film. That's belief work. That's when we take a look at people's identities. We take a look at their limiting beliefs, their empowering beliefs, their values, their drivers, all the internal stuff that actually creates the external circumstances. That's what's required to make neurotransformational shifts in people. And we've got a very strong community of support. Me and my team really work hard to make sure that you're supported, and the people that we attract are just some of the best humans on the planet. Of course, I'm 100% biased, but we have an amazing community of coaches who are just committed and geeks when it comes to human transformation and experience. Sorry, I looked at the word experience. Human transformation behavior is what I wanted to say. Now, in this program, there are 3 levels of mastery. Number 1, you're going to learn the content from me teaching it to you. The intellectual transfer of information is one of the ways that you'll start to master this. But the second 2 are even more critical, because the nature of this program requires you to have a buddy coach, basically. So if you join this program, you'll have somebody else that you're going through the program with. And in doing the exercises, you're going to practice with each other. So when you practice doing the exercise, that's a whole new level of experience. But then when you practice getting coached, right? When your partner is practicing on you, you're getting life coaching as a side benefit of learning how to do the coaching. So what happens in this kind of a structure is you learn the skills, but at the same time, you're clearing a lot of things in your life. That's why this becomes transformational for so many people, because you're doing real life coaching while you're learning how to do real life coaching. So you get the benefit of the coach and the client as you move through the program. And then we will certify you. I'll give you a certification in my Ignite process so that you feel more comfortable in walking people through. If you choose to build a coaching business, you get more comfortable in walking people through that framework. So we've got a course coming up. Sorry, I just moved through that really quick on the slide. We've got, at least see if I can go back. We've got a course coming up on March 28th. We're going to go quickly. It's actually going to be 2 modules a week. So the course is going to be done in 5 weeks. You don't necessarily have to attend all of them live. You're going to get archives, and you're going to be able to go back and listen to them again. If you miss a live call, you can obviously catch the replay of it, etc. But we're going to dive into so many aspects of coaching. So neurotransformational coaching, let me move through some of these with you. The foundations of NLP, which is the basis of all the change work that I do, the belief work that I do, because that's what created the gigantic breakthroughs in my life. The tenets of neurotransformational coaching and transformational coaching in general, my targets of transformation. So if you want to help somebody, what are the 5 targets you look at in their life? You look at this, you look at that, you look at their language, etc., their drivers. You're going to learn the language of the brain. As I said earlier, you have to understand how the brain works. You got to understand how it functions. You got to understand how it learns. You have to understand how to communicate with the brain. You have to understand how the brain makes meaning of the events that hit it, all the filters that it's using. You've got to understand all of those things in order for you to help people make the shifts that they can make neurologically with their brain. 6 layers of human emotion. That's some of the most transformational content that I've personally experienced as a client, which is why I teach it in my coaching certification programs. How to be specific with the brain. Your brain is your most powerful goal achievement asset on the planet that we have access to, but most people don't engage it properly. I've already talked about the Ignite framework, but inside that framework, I'm going to teach you how to have what we call sensory acuity, to be so connected to another human being, whether it's one-on-one in person or in a group on stage or even over the phone or via video. You can have sensory acuity so you can connect with them and judge when what you're saying is making a shift in them or what have you. How to create instantaneous rapport. Without rapport, you have no abilities as a coach. You've got to constantly be in rapport with people. We'll talk about internal representational systems, how to coach people or teach people who are visual versus people who are auditory versus people who are kinesthetic versus people like me who are auditory kinesthetic. Right? Who are auditory digital, rather. We call them AD, which is a whole different kind of learning, right? You just have to be at least aware of these different learning preferences. We'll talk about the leverage and permission. I already talked about that a little bit. I personally have content that I've developed over the years called the 16 components of commitment. When you coach somebody, you've got to focus on these components. People are not under educated, they are under committed. And when you understand the brain and how it works and how to create commitment, you'll be able to help your clients transform so much easier, and obviously yourself too, right? You'll notice in these 16 components that the reason you don't get some of your goals is because these components are off. We'll talk about the environments externally that people are dealing with and how to shift those behavior patterns. I said earlier how to deconstruct and reconstruct habits, strategies that are a little bit more surface level in nature, the components of a successful team, both for you internally and for your clients, how to become a successful coach, what to do on your calls, how to take notes, all these things that will help you be more transformational and more successful as a coach, but more successful on behalf of your clients. And we're going to go over all kinds of transformational exercises. I'll give you tools that can help you help others get rid of pain, get rid of limiting beliefs, get rid of shame and guilt, right? All that internal work. I'm going to give you followable, if that's not even a word, but I'm going to give you tools that you can easily follow. I'm going to give you coaching techniques that you can, some of them, not all of them fit this category, but some of them, you just read questions and you have people answer the questions and the questions do the work. Some other tools are not just, paint by numbers like that. They are more conceptual and they're more of an art than a science. But I want to give you a lot of tools that you'll be able to use right away in your coaching practice with your clients and, obviously with yourself. You're going to get a lot of benefits beyond the certification, the confidence, the certainty, the clarity, the conviction that I was talking about earlier. You're going to be able to help your clients a little bit better. You're going to have leverage over 95% of your market because of the distinction that I talked about. So my goal is that this program, if you're interested in it, really helps you go to the next level, right? You'll get some bonuses with this program. You'll get access to my marketing audio program or information product called Full-Time Coach Project. That's all marketing. This program that I'm talking about is all skill set, but obviously you need to know marketing too. So I have a Full-Time Coach Project that you can dive into and consume at your own pace. You're going to get a discount if you want to continue and go to the 5-day live event. You'll get a discount on that. We're doing that in August of 2017. And you'll also get access to a mastermind that we did just a couple months ago. We took 10 businesses and that all wanted to be coaches and wanted to launch either a product or a program or just launch their business. And we walked them through 10 modules of how to launch something, specifically how to launch something. One of the students generated, I believe, $54,000 in a launch based on what we talked him through, and you'll get access to that as well. So that's a really good program. The value of the bonuses is high. It's well over $3,000. We're offering this, at least we've put a price tag on this particular coaching certification program for $497, and but you can get it for cheaper than that. You can get it if you pay in full. You can get it for $347. So we want to make this a no-brainer. And even if that's too much, you can do 3 payments of $129. So we want this to be a no-brainer. Honestly, part of my intention is to get people exposed to this work, get people exposed to this content in a different medium. I've been teaching this content for many, many years. It's just always been live. And part of my intention is to get more people to experience this content, obviously. And so that's why, honestly and transparently, I'm hoping that, it's a no-brainer for you if this is resonating with you, and jump in. So the URL right there is on the screen, elitecoachinguniversity.com/BCC, which stands for Breakthrough Coaching Certification. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to type this into the chat. So I just sent it to everybody. Sometimes we get people that said, that tell us, I try to type it in and it didn't come up or whatever. So you should be able to just click on, if you're interested in this, click on the link that I just sent to everybody, and it should open right up in your screen. We always do fast action taker bonuses. So for the first 3 people to purchase this program, and I think we have one more. We did one webinar before. We did one webinar earlier this week or a few days ago, and I think we still, I don't know, but we have. Let me just make an executive decision on this webinar. The first 3 people that purchase from this webinar, regardless of what we did in the past, because I don't remember and I don't want to tell you something that's wrong. We'll just open up another 3 spots. So the first 3 people that join this program off of this webinar, you'll get an hour call, or a 30-minute call rather, with me, and we'll go over whatever we need to. If I can support you in business, great. If that just turns into a personal life coaching session, then that's great too. I'll help you however I can. And then the next 10 people after that will get a mastermind with me, a 13-person mastermind. And again, we'll focus on business. We'll focus on whatever the people of the mastermind need. So this is an intimate group. There's 13 people. So the first 3 people get both. And then the next 10 people just get that mastermind call, so that I can support you, however I can. There's also a 30-day money back guarantee. I don't have it on here, but if you just want to try it out, I want to reverse the risk. So there's no risk on your part financially. And it's a 35-day program. So you have a 30-day money back guarantee on a 35-day program. So you can really consume just about all of it. And if you feel like we didn't deliver, if you don't like the content, if you just don't like anything about the program, then just let us know. I'm not in the business of keeping money from people that didn't get what they wanted. And we have a pretty easy refund policy, if you don't like what you got. So that's the pitch. If you're interested, then jump in, elitecoachinguniversity.com/BCC. If you have any questions on the program, let me know. They're all going to be delivered via Zoom webinar. So there's going to be video components. You're going to get handouts. We've designed the program the best way that I've experienced over the last 10 years, or what I've learned is, all the elements that are important for maximum consumption and maximum benefit in an online program. That's why we've got the community online, and me and my team will support you in any way that I can, any way that we can consume the content and apply the content, right? Because consumption without application really doesn't matter. So if you have any questions, let me know. If not, if you don't have a question now, or you come up with a question later, then you can email me. You can just reply to any of the emails that went out about this particular webinar. You can get with me on social media or whatever. We're pretty easy to find. So the start date, again, George, is March 28th. So as of the recording of this, as of the live recording, it's a couple weeks and a couple days. So 16 days from this live session, we start the program. And again, twice a week is pretty aggressive. But the reason that I do it, or that I've decided to do it that way, is because I want to keep the momentum, right? I want to keep the momentum going and keep digging. And momentum gets exponential as you stay inside of a conversation. So for the people that, can keep up and watch, all the things live, great. Some of you might not watch any of them live, and you just have a resource, a vault of content that you can go back to that will support you being a better coach, right? All right, so someone says, Hamza, still working through FTCP, registered for the August event. I don't know if we're going to have another session after March 8th. I don't know when our next live session will be, but if that doesn't work for you, if this first session doesn't work for you, this first live program, then you can just jump in the second one. At the very least, you'll have all of the recordings, just like you're working through FTCP right now. You'll have all the recordings, and we'll support you, however we can, Hamza. And I appreciate you even being on the webinar. It's good to see your name, at least. I can't say to see your face, but good to see your name. So there's a chance that we'll do another live session before our August ECCP, but I don't know. If we do, we'll certainly let you know, but I won't promise it, because as of right now, we don't have that commitment to we don't have the commitment to do another live call. All right, I don't see any other questions about the program itself. So as I said, if something does come up and a question that you have, then let me know. Or if there's something that's just a little bit more private or it takes longer to explain, then feel free to email me. So hopefully there was something valuable that you got out of this webinar. I appreciate your time and your energy and your contribution. For all of you that listened to or watched and participated in some or all of this webinar, if there's anything else we can support you in, something that's beyond the scope of this particular webinar, then let us know, and we will do everything that we can to support you in your journey as much as possible. So if you're going to jump in the program, then I can't wait to connect with you inside. If you're going to wait and do something else with somebody else, or just for whatever reason not jump in this, then we'll support you from the sidelines, however that's going to look. So with that, everyone, again, thank you for your time. I appreciate you, and I will talk to you soon in some way, shape, or form. Take care, everybody. Have a great night. Bye-bye.